I'm Ben Casnocha. I'm an entrepreneur and writer and mentor in the TechStars program.
And I'm Tom Higley. I'm the CEO of a company called Higley, and I'm also a mentor in the TechStars program.
Whatever that means. So Tom and I were just chatting about co-founders. So Tom's involved kind of a new iteration of his company, and I'm thinking about starting a new company myself and the importance of co-founders. So Tom, you've had more experience than me. You've gone through a really successful company with a really strong co-founder, and now you kind of have not quite a full co-founder. What's the dynamic there?
Well, it's been a challenge because I'm pretty persuaded that dyadic relationship between co-founders is a powerful thing, and it's behind some of the greatest companies that have been started, certainly in the tech space. And I think it's a much more difficult thing to do after the fact. If you don't do it at the beginning, it's pretty hard to lay it in later. Maybe it's possible, and it'd be interesting to think if there are examples. And now I know that the companies that you've done in the past, and you've done a lot in a short space of time, have had
you had different amounts of. I've worked with different people in different capacities, and we're talking upstairs about how important a co-founder is to complement your skill set. I think that I agree with that, but I almost think it's more important for them to complement you personally and with rapport and personality. And I first brought on what would be the equivalent of a co-founder for my business. It really didn't work out well. He complimented me fantastically professionally, and he had the experience I didn't have, but personally we really didn't get along. Yeah. And so the next time around when I really sought out a partner in my business, of course he had a nice resume and good qualifications, but fundamentally we spent as much time as possible in personal environments. So I went and hung out with his family and kids for a weekend, and we went on car trips and just BS'd about random things, totally not business related, because the idea is we're going to spend a lot of time together. So for me, I really now emphasize personal rapport and when finding people to work with.
I completely get it. I think I've been the beneficiary of some really fortunate sets of circumstances. I don't think I could have predicted how well things would work out with me and Neil when we did Service Metrics. And in that context, someone introduced me to someone who was 23, and I don't know how old I was at the time, but I'm sure I was north of 40. Yeah. And it was great. I mean, I think that Neil at that time didn't know what a cap table was, and he was fresh. He was eager to learn as much as he could, and we raised the initial round of the company together. But more than that, by the time we finished, we were completing each other's sentences, and we really did have that sort of underpinning of ways to be able to talk to each other.
So maybe, I'd be curious, one of the things I'm thinking about is what's the process for coming up with good ideas? So, Tom, you have a really interesting idea you're working with in the online ticketing space, and my own experience, some of the best ideas I've come up with are things where I have a personal experience with a problem and then going and building a solution to that problem. Do you have any thoughts on you've been exposed to a lot of ideas in your career? How are you thinking about coming up with an idea and then judging whether it's a good one, right? Because to me, you meeting all these TechStars companies, every idea kind of seems pretty good on the surface, right? Oh, that's neat. I can see someone buying that. But how do you kind of dig down and evaluate that and choosing where to spend your time on a project?
This is our other theme. It's the mistakes that you made connected to this. So, to that question, the best experiences I've had have been collaborative, right?
Yeah.
Has it been like that for you? I mean, where you're talking to other people about it, or is it just yours?
I find I have an inability to really judge my own ideas objectively, because I think most of my ideas are pretty good, and then someone tells me it's bullshit, I'm like, oh yeah, it's true. So I find talking to other people extraordinarily valuable, and too many people are too closed about their ideas. I'm a big believer in share your ideas, talk about what you're thinking about, be transparent to a point. I mean, I think people tend to overrate the proprietary nature of their ideas. And I think if you do that too much at the exclusion of good feedback, it's really going to hurt the process.
Well, it's funny. We go to the mentoring thing here, the TechStars side of things. There's a company here where this came up. From my perspective, if you aren't having the conversation with a set of prospective customers or the folks that you're actually going to deliver value to, you're never really getting the feedback that you need to know whether this works.
Right.
And I think back when Neil and I did this, we had lots and lots of conversations with folks who finally said at the end, this is amazing. I really like this. This is great. And the same thing is starting to happen in the conversations that I'm having now with prospective customers. And I think it's more those folks than it is
just your random business friend.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Now, here's the thing I find interesting. I agree that's important, but I have this whole theory. It's not my theory, like anyone's theory. It's whatever you read and piece together. But I really think that you want to listen to your customers. You also don't want to listen to your customers, right? Like most customers, like I'm very suspicious of anyone's introspections, right? So most people don't know what they want, don't know what they need. And I think there's a great Henry Ford quote where he said, if I asked people what they wanted, they would have said a faster horse. Right? No one was thinking automobiles.
Absolutely.
So how do you, so when you talk to customers, it's a balancing act. You want to elicit genuine feedback, but also be kind of skeptical of what they think would be a good idea.
I think you want to show them something.
Yeah.
Right. So you have an idea when you talk to a customer, you're not just going in and saying, what do you think I should do for you?
Right, exactly. Right. Yeah, show them something really specific and get some reaction.
Yeah. And if you're only talking to one, then you become essentially the custom development shop of whatever that is, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And this is the other big thing, right? When you gain customer feedback, you have to label the feedback. Is this super innovative early adopter type of client? Is this a late adopter and discounted appropriately? Because you're right, you don't want to get, unless that's your business, but I think it's a pretty bad business to get into, just doing custom development for whatever somebody says.
Yeah. Well, and I've seen things go in that direction. I've seen them go in another direction. I think in the best of all possible worlds, when I'm building a business, I'm imagining that I've become the expert somehow, or our company has become the expert. We have become the expert in the space for everybody that we're talking to. But that didn't start with the first conversation.
Right.
It's, a few conversations down the road where suddenly we actually have the benefit of what we're hearing collectively across the set of folks in the space. And that's really powerful. Then you become a point of focus for a solution that everybody's talking about.
Right. Cool.
Well, thanks for the time. It was great. It's
great
really wonderful to be able to talk.
As I always like to say when I meet people like Tom, who I see maybe once a year when I'm out here, it's we follow each other on Twitter, read blogs and stuff, but nothing like an in-person encounter. So
very powerful. Thanks, Andrew.
Yeah, perfect.